Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So excited to bring another video with you. And in this one, we're going to do a little safety comparison. I think we all know safety is a position of need for the Lions in this upcoming draft, and we want to talk about it. So Chris, we have picked three guys. We've picked Lewis Cine, Daxton Hill, and the one everybody's talking about, Mr. Kyle Hamilton. So we need to talk about these safeties. We want to do some compare, contrast. Who would you rather draft first overall, right? Like how would you rank them? But also, how do they stack up compared to each other versus where their draft position would be? So let's take a look at each of these three players. Does anyone stand out for you above the others? I just want to ask that first.
Yeah, so Kyle Hamilton, right, of course, is just they got the size, he's got the range, he just jumps out at me. Daxton Hill for me doesn't jump out, and I'm trying to not be a Michigan homer, and maybe I'm going too far the other way. Like, oh no, I'm just want to look at him fairly, and maybe I'm going too far the other way. But then Lewis Cine, maybe I'm going too far the other way with him, where it's like just kind of noticed him at Georgia, whatever. We played them, so I was like, they got NFL guys running all over. Then he goes to does the 40s the fastest, so I'm like, oh man, take him. So maybe I'm over evaluating Cine, so it kind of washes out. So that's kind of where I'm at in a nutshell with these three guys right now.
Yeah, and that makes sense to me. So let me ask you this question. How big do you think the gap is between Kyle Hamilton and these other two guys? Do you think it's like a monster 30 picks in between the gap where one guy, it's like he will be a perennial all defensive team versus a couple of guys where it's like, they'll probably be an okay set? What do you think the gap is in between?
I don't think the gap's that big. And I think what will happen is, yes, one guy will go in the top 10. The next safety will probably go 20 picks later. So it's like, oh, he's 20 picks worse. Well, it's like, no, because, you took DNs, D tackles, quarterbacks, there's other positions, but when you rank that gap of safeties, I think that gap is not that big. And so we're going to get a good safety here. I think that's the best thing about this, because I think we know that Kyle Hamilton, people are not going to be able to stay off of him in the top 10. Someone's going to grab him. And
it might be us at 2.
Yeah, it might be us at 2, but that gap, I don't think that's big. Is that big? What about you? Do you think there's a huge gap between Kyle Hamilton and the other two guys?
Yeah, I want to make sure this mic is catching when I say this. No, I don't. All right, so can I just throw some stats at you?
Yeah.
So Lewis Cine, 15 games played, 73 tackles, 2 tackle for losses, a pick, and 9 pass breakups. Okay, so the interception game wasn't there, but he was getting in the passing lanes and breaking up a lot of passes. Daxton Hill, 14 games, similar amount of games, 69 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, half a sack, 2 picks, 8 pass breakups. That's a good stat line. Like, that's a really good stat line. And then we get all the way down to Mr. Hamilton, only played 7 games, half the season the other guys played, 34 total tackles, 3 picks, 4 pass breakups. So me being the numbers guy that I am, because I like to nerd out on numbers sometimes, I just said, okay, well, what would it have looked like if he played 14 games, right? Just like Dax Hill. And what you get with that is 68 tackles, 6 picks. So his interceptions are far above anyone. Now, picks are the most volatile stat, right? So I wouldn't say doubling. That's the most normal. And then 8 pass breakups. Do you notice anything missing there? No tackles for loss.
I was going to say sacks or something.
No sacks. Nothing behind the line of scrimmage. So I would naturally anticipate his interceptions would be higher. They used him in a different way. So Georgia and Michigan would take Cine and Hill and they'd bring them up closer to the line and allow them to make plays with blitzes and things like that. So I like that. Hamilton was just free safety. Like, he's going to roam out there. And here's what I'll tell you right now. Dax Hill, 4 tackles for loss, half a sack. So 5 tackle for losses. It's not as good as a pick, but it's close. Like, it's close. That's a drive ender too, isn't it? When you get a sack for 10 yards. Like, I mean, that's just the way it goes. So I look at these guys and I say, no, the gap is not that big. They were just used totally different. And the tackles are about the same. The pass breakups are about the same. The interception's the only one. So I don't know. Tell me what your thoughts are when you hear those stats.
Well, when I hear that, a little more impressed with Lewis Cine because he is on a. I mean that defense was loaded, so
Oh,
there's
loaded.
not
Yeah.
going to be. It's not like a bunch of running backs were getting through to the secondary where he had to make a play. So he was up in the line of scrimmage
Yep.
making plays up because there's nobody was getting past the line of scrimmage against Georgia. So for him to have any tackles was like, man, good job because they were so good defensively. So
And he had
I
the
love
most
that.
tackles, just to be clear.
Yeah, and
Yep.
then Daxton Hill. So that's the one guy that you and I have watched the most out of these three
Yes.
guys every
Very
game.
clearly.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the thing about him is the thing I don't like or gives me a little concern is that he looks a little thinner.
Okay.
But he plays, but I never thought to myself, he plays strong, plays physical,
Yeah.
fast, long. So I keep wanting to think of negative because I'm just like high on him because I like him and he went to
Yep.
Michigan and I'm like, yeah, he's great. But I really can't find anything that I would be like, dude, this guy can play. And I don't see that gap. And that's what you and I keep talking about. And then the last thing I would say is for Kyle Hamilton, he is like Malik Willis in that, hey, we're going through this process. He's a guy you didn't really know a lot about. And
Sure.
so naturally he shoots up the board, your excitement. I think you and I were both like, let's do it. Let's take him. I would have no problem. And I still really
Yeah.
wouldn't, but
And
we've cooled
then the
on.
combine.
Yeah, exactly. We've cooled on him. Combine wasn't as good. Everybody's like, yeah, get a stopwatch. 0.2 of a second's not that much. Well, still.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yes, it is. It's the difference between an elite athlete and a linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I understand, like, and I thought maybe he would show out a little bit in the Notre Dame Pro Day, and he went from running a 4.59 to a 4.56. So it's not like it was that much better. Now, I will say this: I think Kyle Hamilton would do a better job covering tight ends. I
Mm-hmm.
think he would do a much better job there. I think he absolutely would be effective when you brought him down into the box. Obviously, his tackle numbers show that. Notre Dame just used him in a different way.
Yep.
I think what I walk away from this most impressed with is Daxton Hill. And what the stats kind of show to me are proof that he was the highest rated recruit of the three coming out of high school. I mean, 5-star, just the idea when he went to Michigan was that he's a superior athlete, right? And his combine numbers for a safety kind of showed that he was a really good athlete. I think when you look at what the Lions started doing at the back end of last year, they were running often. So we started kind of in that 3-4 mold, right? When we started the season. But as the season went on, it turned into a little more 4-3 sets. And then we often were almost playing like a 4-2-5. Like that 4-2 defense where you have 5 DBs out there. And what you need are safeties who can play like almost that nickel corner type role, or you're that coverage defensive back. And I like Hill and Cine almost as much as Hamilton. Like, I'd almost be as happy to draft them. I feel like they're more surefire. I know that sounds weird.
Yeah.
And people are going to disagree with me.
Because you can, I'm sorry. Yeah. You can take that the end and get a safety. If you take Hamilton at 2, then, you still get whatever. But yeah, now I'm with you. I'm so happy with those other guys. And you make a great point. You do a lot of 2 linebacker stuff. So that safety needs to be up, able to be in the box. He's a safety. He's a linebacker. He's a nickel corner, tight end. It's just the game has evolved in the last 3 years. Like, right. We know it's involved in the last 30, but like the last 3 years, they're like, okay, we're going to spread. We're going to take our time. Like the quarterback at the line of scrimmage is just really looking, you used to just run up and run your play. You never even looked. You're just like, I'm running this play. Now you really are patient. Aaron Rodgers is going to sit there and just look at what you're doing. So you need to be able to have a safety that is versatile. There's no doubt.
Versatile. And look, all 3 of these guys are really good picks. I think there's not a huge difference between the 3 of them. I do think Hamilton's the best one. It might not sound like that based on what I was saying. It might not, but I think it's really close. It's just not worth the gap in picks. Would you rather have Thibodeau and then Dax Hill or Lewis Cine, or would you rather get Hamilton at 2 and then best edge rusher available at 32, or where do you even go at 32?
Right, because these edge rushers are going to go. I mean, it's just obvious that there's not going to be. I mean, these edge rushers are going. We got
They're not
somebody with
hanging.
yo.
They're not hanging past 20. That's just not
No.
going to happen because they're too valuable of a position. Safety is seen as a position that you can get throughout the draft. So the edge rusher just isn't. I know we have a deep edge rushing class, but the top is still definitely much different than the next tier.
That's right.
And so I think there's 3 guys that are in that top tier and maybe 2, 2.5, but then there's a big drop after this. And I know we have, what is it? Jermaine Johnson lovers and George Karlaftis and people like that, but they are a tier below and they're still not going to be there at 32.
Right.
I also think with the way we're playing defense, that 4-2-5, it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world to take like Thibodeau or Trayvon Walker at 2 and then take, if they're still both there, take Cine and Hill at 32 and 34 instead of going linebacker. Like,
yeah.
I don't think that would be out of the question. So there's a lot of things here. Now I'm starting to get pumped up at the 11-minute mark of the video. But anyway, I don't, do you have anything else that you want to say in this? I don't want to make this last forever.
No, I am all good. I'm excited again, it just adds to the intrigue. And this is all the things you have to think about because you're right. That gap in the safeties is not as big as the gap in the DNs from the top to the bottom.
Yeah, well said. Way to end it. Hey, if you like this video, click below, hit that subscribe button. That would mean a lot to us. Join this community here at Sports Talk Detroit. We love talking sports, love talking with all of you. So hit that subscribe button, leave a comment below, and we will see you on the next one.
See ya.